Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, a show in which I chat with authentic, heart centered experts about interesting topics to spark, inspire, and motivate personal and professional growth. Today's topic is lessons in leadership, how all roads lead to Rome. And this conversation is worth your while because no matter what path you've taken, the lessons you've gathered along the way are shaping your leadership journey. Whether your Rome is a career shift, a personal goal, or a leadership role, this episode will help you see how your unique experiences are valuable stepping stones. Our conversation today will make your journey easier, more rewarding, and undeniably yours. So I'm your host, Linda Bucher, and I have the best job in the world. I help people to get unstuck. It's my superpower, and I love empowering high potential, multi-passionate people to find their superpowers, to get to that next level and get the most out of life, because that is what you are here for. So for 45 years of my life, I was a chameleon, feeling like a victim of circumstance the whole time until I finally discovered who I am and then connected with my passion and my purpose and reinvented my life to align with my true self. So when that happens, guess what? You get to be happier, more confident, more fulfilled, but most importantly, now I get to help you do the same thing because you have a rich, full life to lead. You have important gifts to give to the world. You have a splash to make. So if that's like, woo, I want some of that, then go to my website. I just redid it. It looks really cool. And I got a ton of freebies to help you out. So it's lindabucher.com. Okay, back to today's show, Lessons in Leadership, How All Roads Lead to Rome. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Michael Fechter. He is a lifetime leader, an entrepreneur, and a mentor who is making positive ripples in a very unique way with so many various diverse experiences that has led him to where he is today. So, Michael, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do, who you serve, basically how you are making your positive ripples in the world?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So my career path, personal path, has been in the leadership from the time I got out of school through where I'm sitting today. And I do want to throw out there that you touched on a few things, Linda, on what is Rome and what is leadership. You don't have to be a CEO or president of a company. There are so many different forms of leadership that people don't realize that they're really in that role in many situations. And also the important thing when I talk about Rome, everyone has a different Rome. For me, my career path took me to running two different companies. Each one was different in their own way. And running the company that had certain criterias in order to make it successful, but they all have the same thing. I don't care if it's a household, you got to have a balanced budget. You have to make sure that there's food on the table and the house is kept clean and all these things. Or it could be a company where you have finance, you have marketing, you have sales, you have operations. So it's really not much different, but they're all leadership type roles. So that's important for people to understand. So after that, my career up there with in the Midwest with two companies, I still kept my leadership when I left that, and I did consulting for companies and still do throughout the country for companies that want to lead like leaders. And a lot of it is coaching and instilling values that are important both personally and professionally. In addition to that, involved in real estate down in the Southwest Florida area. And the purpose of that really was to give back to people, to have them follow their dreams. And it's so exciting to really share the knowledge and what it takes and ask the questions that sometimes they don't think about in order for them to make great decisions. And that is very, very rewarding when I look at the overall scope of, my purpose and the things that I've been able to give back. So.
Excellent. That's great. So I love that you already brought up that there's not just all roads lead to Rome, but there's many Romes, right? Of course, I'm a musician, and so the first thing that happens to me is I'm hearing B-52s in my head. Rome, if you want to, roam around the world. That might be your Rome. I have a
Yeah,
little bit of that in me, actually. Um, and then you likewise brought up that leadership has very many forms. So I like that to start with, because a lot of times people think, oh, leadership only means I'm going to be in a leadership role at a corporation. And I love that you brought up we're leaders in our families, we're leaders in our communities. Maybe if you are part of a religious your religious community, or like I live in a little community called Lighthouse Bay in the winter.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And, so it's a little cohesive community. And, how can I be a leader here? Right. So I love that you brought
Absolutely.
that up.
Yeah, I think people don't sometimes think about it enough to really understand that these pockets in their life are some type of leadership. Now, they may not require the same skill level or different things, but they require something to be successful in that. And I think that's important. And I will say also that those leadership things, those skills that you achieve in your life, all the way from really just as a little kid growing up until whatever age you are, that experience brings you into it. Perhaps it could be a new Rome on account of it because of all these experiences. Now your Rome is, for me, I'll give an example. Yes, I was in more the corporate business side of the world for many years. But when I parted ways with that, moved down to Southwest Florida. And so my new Rome was being a consultant to companies out there that are looking to help their leaderships teams mature, lead like leaders, set strategy, stuff that it's deep in my heart, and the experience that I have in the past certainly helps elevate that to these people, and it really is a good feeling for me on account of it. So again, my new realm is that it's not per se running that company every day to day. Same with the real estate side of it. Most people don't understand. They think, well, an agent is an agent. Things are complicated today. And so being able to share that information, ask the questions so they can have the greatest experience ever about something they're going to spend a lot of money on, it's pretty exciting. And it's fun watching our clients with that success. And so that's what I say. If Rome does change as we mature, as we do different things in life. And I think you have to be flexible with that, certainly. And you said something in the beginning, Linda, which I find really encouraging, and I'm a strong believer in it. Do something you enjoy to do. I used to tell my staff when they came in, we want you to check your brain in when you come, not check it out. It's got to be something you enjoy to do. You got to have a heartfelt and a heartbeat that, man, I'm excited about it. So empowering those folks that were in my company in a team culture, it was exciting to see my staff members and team members explode in their own way, in their own careers, personally and professionally. So yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting is like a lot of people come to me in their 40s and 50s and 60s and say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but it's not the thing I chose when I was 20. And so, but then the experience that they have is maybe in one lane, right? I remember I had a client, she was a lawyer at a litigation firm, and litigation went against every bone in her body. She was like not that person. She was like a total peacemaker. So but she's like, what else could I be besides a lawyer? That's all I can be. So people pigeonhole themselves because of their experience. And they did what we don't realize, a lot of people don't realize until like I have exercises to help them discover this is when we look back at all the jobs you've ever had, it's not, there's something that the skill set is the surface part. And I know, Michael, I asked you earlier about, like, what do you do? Right. So, you could say you're an entrepreneur, you're a mentor, right? You're a consultant, right? I could say I'm a coach, but that's not what I do. So when I ask myself, what do? I help people to get unstuck and get to the next level so they can get the most out of life. That's what I do. How do I do it? Well, as a coach, a mentor, a speaker, right? That's a how, it's not a what. So when you look back at your skills that you've gained, if you're a lawyer, or I have another client who's in the medical tech field, and she wants to get into the travel field. It's totally, and she's like, well, how does that map? And so as we're talking about it, we're discovering that she helps in the medical field. She helps the clients be at ease with this big thing they're going through, which is scary, right? To help clients be at ease. And I'm like, do you think maybe a travel company might want their clients to be at ease as well? Like, see, if that's a skill you have, that's transferable. So it's very interesting that all the things that we have done in the past really not only lead to Rome, but they can lead you to what your Rome is, if that makes sense.
Very, very, very good point.
Yeah.
And I'll feed off of that example you gave on some of your clients. So just speaking of my own career, the first business I was involved with as a partner was a returnable container plastic company. And I was not the CEO there, but I was in the biz development, the vice president, and helped grow that company. It was wonderful. However, we had buckets of leadership. There was president, CEO, your operations, your sales and marketing group, and accounting. When I bought this other company and years later, you know what? It was totally different. It was a commercial pizza company, nothing to do with containers. And people said, well, how could you make that career change? Well, in the leadership side of it, in where I came from, those buckets didn't change. Those buckets were the same. It was just a different widget that we were making or selling or promoting. And so when you use the examples you gave, I think people need to take a step back and look at the skill sets that they have and what cross areas they can transfer to. And if there's something that it's like, God, that's my realm. If I could really do that every single day, that would be awesome. And so kind of going through that and understanding that of all the skills and leadership things that you've achieved in your life, how they could impact you and decisions you make later in life to get to that realm.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like I started out, I came out of college and I was a computer programmer. And I did that for a bunch of years. I moved into a marketing department where, because I was a computer programmer, I created their very first website the company had. So because we had folders with brochures, right. But how about if we have a web presence in this brand new web in the 1990s, and we'll make our online brochure, right? So I was doing that. Then we were doing a lot of merger and acquisition stuff. So I can make a hell of a spreadsheet. I learned finance. I can make these spreadsheets where like some tiny little thing like, oh, how do you want to finance this 75-25 debt? Debt to equity or 50-50. And I would just change a variable and the whole spreadsheet would ripple and the earnings per share would come out the other end. Right. And they're like, wow, how do you do that? Because if they asked the finance department to do it, it would have taken a long time. So I'm programming these spreadsheets to do that. Right. So I did all that. Then I was in project management and an IT department at the very tail end of my corporate career. Managing big, multi-million-dollar projects and big teams of 40, 50 people. And so then when I quit all that to become a life coach, I was like, there's no transferable skills. There's none. Like, I'm not going to need to do any of that, and I have a master's degree in business. So I thought being an entrepreneur was going to be a piece of cake. I got a freaking MBA. This is going to be easy. Right?
Yeah, why can't they, right?
Right. Not easy. I'm in a service-based industry, right, which was not really what MBA taught back in the 90s when I finished my MBA in 91, so it was a long time ago. So they weren't teaching it so much. It wasn't revolving around a service-based industry. It was a lot of accounting and this and the other thing. I mean, now I got into it, QuickBooks. I just hooked to my bank accounts. It does the accounting, basically. Yep. I'm like, that's nice, but I get it. I understand it. It's something that transferred. So yes, I have to understand my books, right? I have to understand how to do all those financial things. I just said earlier, I have a brand new website. Oh, guess who programmed all that? That would be Linda, the
Sure.
dinosaur COBOL programmer from the 1980s. Still got it,
Uh-huh.
but I'm in
Yeah.
Squarespace, right? And so these skills, these things I thought, oh, blah, 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 I'm leaving all that behind. Oh my gosh, I draw on them all the time. I draw on the same skills, but to do it something different in the world, something that, and I'm leading us into our next little touch point, something that matters. Because
Absolutely.
as a leader in our lives in any way, we have a ripple effect. You said to me earlier today, it's a legacy. So let's talk about that.
Legacy. Yeah. Well, so when I look at a legacy for myself, and it kind of the legacy is what are you leaving, right? What do you want to be known for, or what does that legacy potentially look like? And I believe for myself when I kind of reflect back, it was about helping other people, and it just so happens that the role that I did for a bulk of my career was running a company. But when you really think about it, every night I went home, I was responsible for every one of those team members and their livelihood and the sickness in their family and all these, fun things and stuff that we all have challenges in life. And it's pretty rewarding when you walk through that. And we all know the road and the journey we travel. We have some good days, but there's some challenging days or weeks as well. And so you're able to get a flavor and feel of that, even though I'm maybe not touching them every day, but it's still the company. And so that I look back and that legacy was very rewarding for me. And some of the people probably don't even know it till later on that there was an impact. And I couldn't even tell you. I know my first company, the CEO, he left a wonderful legacy. Him and the president, they were the primary shareholders. And what they did for employees and team members were phenomenal. So they left a legacy similar to that. When I ran that company, it was very similar. What I'm doing today, to be honest, is it's another legacy. It's a legacy of the touch points of people finding their dream homes down here. Um, and consulting, when I can go into a boardroom with the leadership group and teaching them how to lead like a leader and leaving them with tools that they can do once I'm gone as well.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
is, it is such a great feeling. And then they might call me back for strategy or a year later, but it's so rewarding to see the progress that they made. Um, I had a mentor for 10 years. Sojourner International. He was one of the big three chemical company CEOs, and I was under his wing. And he was so instrumental to me, personally and professionally, that um, he loved what he did. And when he takes someone under his wing like that, it for me, it was like a master's degree 10 times over because it was very, very impactful that I carry many of the things that I learned with him then today. Um, and I do just want to make one comment, Linda, too. You made a comment earlier about how you draw from your past experience, and sometimes you say you don't know how. You gave a great example in your career. I can tell you in the business and stuff that I'm doing today, all my accounting, all the spreadsheets, and I can't tell you all the way from marketing to interaction, presentation. Um, I've used every one of the tools that I've had and then some from all my years of experience. Maybe not to the same level, but I can tell you it separates us from many of the other people that are in the same business, and that gives you that competitive advantage. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't. I would tell everybody, all your listeners out there, that they certainly should be looking deep at all the leadership things and skills that they have.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that leads us to our final point, which is about what someone could do right now. So they say, "Oh, I've got a bunch of experience behind me. What do I do with that? How do I become a better leader?" Right? Because of that. What's one thing? Because we've talked about it as in general, right?
Yeah,
But people like to have an actionable step. So,
absolutely.
what do you think is
Well,
something they could do right now?
and that's a great question because there should be a roadmap. Let's face it, you should have an organized roadmap. If you're thinking, even if you're in the same career and you're not quite to your Rome or personal life, then know what Rome looks like. Because I used to tell people, how do you know what success looks like if you didn't define it, right? I mean, you're just traveling on and every day is a good day. And then 3 years later, like, oh, I'm not sure if I succeeded or not because I really never set a goal to do that. So understand your Rome, right?
Yeah.
So you can do that. It doesn't take much time. Put thought into it. Write it down. Keep it somewhere where you can keep it ahead of you. But then it's kind of number two in the same envelope. Understand yourself. And I can't emphasize that enough because without that foundation, it's pretty hard to follow a path because you're going to end up you're going to be a square peg in a round hole. And what I mean by that, actionable items on this, take the Briggs-Meyer test. That test, I'm an ESTJ, okay? I took it 30 years ago when I was in my 20s, and I can take that test today. I am still an ESTJ. You can get it online, take the test. It's like 90 questions. It's not right or wrong. You tally up scores and then look up what each of those letters mean. If you're an E, that means you're an extrovert. If it's an I, then you're an introvert. But each of the letters, and it has a nice definition. And I still, at this age, go back and I'll read that. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I never changed. So I don't have split personality. It's all the same. But that was something simple. There are other tests out there, DISC, which shows type personalities, but I would highly recommend do something to know who you are. And then you can accentuate those skill sets based on that. If it, I just, like I said, I can't express that enough. I think that's very, very important to really know who you are as an individual.
Well, I got to wrap right around that with something that I always say. Someday it'll be a quote I might be famous for, right? And it goes like this: when you wrap what you're doing and how you're doing it around who you are, happiness and success will meet you there.
Totally agree. Yeah, absolutely.
And you brought up a roadmap. That's so funny
Mhm.
because I have, like on my website, I have this part that says, map it like a treasure hunt, the fastest path to your goals, right? And I have
Right.
a session that is a mapping session. We actually make a map, right? We discover like why you're stuck, what the future is, a clearer future. Because a lot of people are like, well, how am I going to get a map to where I want to go if I don't know where I want to go? So that's part of that session. It's like 90 minutes long. Like we get clearer on your perfect future. Then we're mapping how do you get there. But what I'm doing as a master certified life coach is I'm also identifying all the mental and emotional obstacles that are in your way. And then we create like a concrete strategy. So I have a map. It's not a general map. It's personalized. We have to go through the session. I can't just give you the map because I don't know what it
Sure.
is unless I'm talking with you.
Right.
But yeah, I've got that. So when you said, a roadmap, there's a roadmap out there. But back to, specifically talking about that, it starts with who you are and who you are today. We do have a core identity, and I love those assessments. When I'm working with someone and we're trying to discover who you are, because that's always part of the plan. We're always doing that. Who you are today outside of roles and responsibilities, the core essence of yourself, right? We're working on that. And what do you want now? Because what you want now is not what you wanted 20 years ago. So what's
Absolutely.
important to you now? Your values might change as you mature and your experience kind of shape your life. And also sometimes you get to a point where I was at a breaking point at 45. I'm like, I'm all done settling. This corporate world, that's not for me. It doesn't feel, what I was doing didn't feel significant or important because something inside me changed and said, I've got to do something that makes a difference in the world. And I didn't feel that what I was doing was making a difference in the world. It was for that company, but I want to make
Sure.
a bigger difference. So now I get to ripple, helping individuals who ripple themselves. So
Absolutely.
that's more, that's definitely beautiful. So, who you are and what you want now is really at the core of it.
It is. I think you summed it up very well. And you know, sometimes finding what that is difficult. And sometimes people don't want to admit it. And those are I've encountered people that I've helped coach from in the business world. They're like, well, that's not me. I don't do that. And when you start asking questions and you say, well, think about when this happened, how did you, and all of a sudden, the light bulb goes on and they're like, oh, yeah, um, I am an introvert. I am not an extrovert. And you're right. I really hate talking to people. I really would rather just do my little thing, and I'm
Right.
good at it and I love it and my heart's at rest. And I get nervous every time I
Right.
have to be, an extrovert and talking to other people and whatever. So
Right.
it's such an important piece. It's a building block as a foundation,
Yeah.
as you do with your clients on an individual basis.
Yeah. So, and there's also an assessment that I recommend that all my clients take, and it's called the Kolbe Index, Kolbe.
Mhm.
It's the how you do what you do, like your modus operandi.
Yeah.
and and what's beautiful about any assessment is the DISC, the Myers Briggs, this Kolbe Index, is there's scales. There's not a right or wrong. There's not a pass or fail. It's a
Right.
scale and says, or a continuum. Where are you on each of these continuums? Are you over here? Are you over here? Are you in the middle? And
Right.
the most beautiful, freeing thing about taking those assessments is when you are honest, when you answer the questions honestly, and it says you're over here on the continuum, you get to give yourself permission to not be over here because it's not natural for you,
Correct.
which is wonderful. Like when I took the Kolbe Index, I am a super high quick start. I'm like all the quick start as fast as I can, boom, 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 right? So I'm like a go, go, go. So stopping to analyze and research, oh my God, that is like poke me in the eye with a sharp stick. I hate that. It's like, I'm like, it's not fast enough for me. So I want the cliff notes. Somebody do the research, give me the cliff notes. I'll make the decision. Right.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but what happens is, and I heard this example, I think it was through Martha Beck. She wrote a little article on conation, which is the Kolbe Index. And it was like, if I want to learn how to knit, I'm going to look up a YouTube video that's not more than 7 minutes long, and I'm going to stop it every 5 seconds and do what they're doing. A person who is on the other side of that continuum, who likes to do analysis, is going to buy a book about knitting. They're going to read about knitting. They're going to learn about the different, knitting needles, the different types of yarns, why you'd use each. They're going to probably buy a pattern, right? At
Yep.
the end of 6 months, I just got some knitting needles. At the end of 6 months, I have a scarf and they have a scarf. But none of us were quicker because I'm just learning as I go and redo, redo,
Sure.
redo. And they're like methodical. So it's not like
Absolutely.
there's a right or wrong. We're both making a scarf by the end of 6 months. It's just
Yeah.
what we went about it is very different. But my point is, it's freeing when you can stop thinking you should be a certain way in your corporation, in your job, or what you're going to do, because that's not natural for you, because you're noticing what is natural by taking these assessments. So thank you
Absolutely.
for bringing those up.
The way I sum up that knitting example is I used to tell staff members and even my own kids growing up when they were going to college, I said, there's many paths to get where you want to go. I'll support them. I might ask you questions, but you could go this way, maybe not the one I would choose, but it'll get you there. And you could choose a different path that maybe I would choose, and it'll get you there as well.
Mm-hmm.
My job as a parent, my job as in the organization was to make sure you don't fail. And so you ask the questions to make sure that they think about like, oh, I didn't think about that if I go this direction. Oh, but I can overcome that. And so now they're part of that decision making process. And it was fun even watching. My kids were always guinea pigs. I brought home my toolbox and I tried it on them as they were teenagers on stuff that I learned in the corporate world, and they laugh about it today because they're all adults and married, and they're like, I'm like, are you using them on your kids? And they're like, yeah, they were awesome. So it's kind of funny, but again, I think it's understanding and accepting who you are, and then
Mm-hmm.
do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Live every day like it's your last. Be happy, and it's very contagious if you start that.
Right.
So,
Because
mm,
all roads lead to Rome.
absolutely,
Michael, thank you
absolutely
so much. This has been such a fun conversation. I really
enjoyed
appreciate you
it.
being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And yeah, it's an exciting topic and something that is really at the heart and soul of everybody out there. I'm sure we all think about it in some way, shape, or form, and just need to apply it.
Yeah.
So.
So, do you have anything that you want to share with our audience and like how they can contact you if they are interested in what you're
Yeah,
doing?
absolutely. My LinkedIn is out there, and certainly reach out on LinkedIn. I mean, one of my pet peeves in life is I actually am one of the few that do respond timely. I don't ghost anybody. I do respond, and if I don't know the answer, you'll know that too. But yeah, by all means, LinkedIn is great. I just did a Zoom call with a university up in University of Wisconsin for in their entrepreneurship class, and it was a blast. And afterwards, I had about a dozen of the students contact me via LinkedIn, asking further questions and so forth. And it was so exciting to see the enthusiasm these young kids had at a young age. So yeah, if there's your audience out there, if they're looking for something in real estate down in Southwest Florida and they don't know where to go, who to talk to, certainly reach out. We'll make sure we help you out. If you have companies or need consulting, certainly call me up. I would love to help your organization achieve success. And so we'll take it from there.
That's wonderful. Awesome. Thank
Well,
you.
well, thank you again for having me. It was enjoyable.
You're welcome. This has been awesome. So, once again, I'm Linda Bucher. I'm on a mission to inspire and impact millions of people to know their worth and share their gifts, deliberately creating big, beautiful ripples in the world. So, if you're ready to get unstuck, to get to that next level and get the most out of life, go on my website, freebies, quizzes, downloads. There's all sorts of cool things that can help you on your journey. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and like this episode and share it with someone that you care about. And then come back next week for another great show to help you grow. Until next time, make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.